Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
What's the strangest remedy you've ever heard? Did you try it? Did it work for you? Hey, it's Jen. Welcome to the Bible for Busy People, where we are talking about scriptures on dust and dirt as we observe Ash Wednesday this week. And if you missed it, we talked about Ash Wednesday yesterday. So if you're not familiar with the practice, you should go listen to that episode. But today we're talking about unusual remedies. And I know for me, one of the strangest ones I tried was when I was pregnant, and I was definitely due with my second child, but I wasn't going into labor. I heard an old wives' tale that if you eat, it must not be that old, an old wives' tale, but if you eat eggplant parmesan, it will help you go into labor. So we went to Olive Garden. I remember I went with my husband and my mom and my oldest child. And we were there and I was like, bring me your eggplant parmesan so that I can have this baby. I am ready. And no, it didn't work. I think it was days after that, or possibly a week after that, when I finally had my baby. But it was definitely an interesting remedy. And we're going to talk about another one today. This one involves Jesus, and it doesn't involve pregnancy. This is in John chapter 9, and this passage is just full of meaning for us. I'm so excited to look over it with you. In verse 1, it says, as he was passing by, this is Jesus, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, Jesus answered. This came about so that God's works might be displayed in him. We must do the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. I appreciate that this starts with a note from Jesus not to assume things about people who are in challenging circumstances, but rather to look at what God will do in their lives. The Bible is really about God. The Bible is about revealing God's heart to us and about us being reconciled and in relationship with him. Anyway, in verse 6, it says, after he said these things, he spit on the ground, made some mud from the saliva, and spread the mud on his eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he left, washed, and came back seeing. Gross. Why? Why, Jesus? Why would you spit on the ground? You can just imagine what this blind man heard. He heard something to the effect of and then felt something on his face that was watery. Can you imagine? So gross. And I don't know what his response was, but I'm curious about this. This is one of those things in the Bible where you're like, why is it in there? And I really believe that this might be a call back to creation. I think this might be a reminder of where we came from. We talked about that yesterday. It says, the Bible says that we came from the dirt, and to the dirt we will return someday. I wonder if that was part of why Jesus did it this way. But I have another reason. We'll get into that in a minute. So in verses 8 through 12, it says, his neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar said, isn't this the one who used to sit begging? Some said, he's the one. Others were saying, no, but he looks like him. He kept saying, I'm the one. So they asked him, then how were your eyes opened? He answered, the man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and told me, go to Siloam and wash. So when I went and washed, I received my sight. Where is he? They asked. I don't know, he said. Here's something else. Why were his neighbors confused about whether or not it was him? Don't you think they would know if they saw him all the time and lived near him? And that made me wonder. I felt particularly challenged. How well do you know your neighbors? Are you involved in their lives? I can't say I know all of my neighbors or that I'm that involved in their lives. So that was a challenging point to me. In verse 13, it says, they brought the man who used to be blind to the Pharisees. The day that Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes was a Sabbath. Then the Pharisees asked him again how he received his sight. He put mud on my eyes, he told them. I washed and I can see. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God because he doesn't keep the Sabbath. But others were saying, how can a sinful man perform such signs? And there was a division among them. Again, they asked the blind man, "What do you say about him since he opened your eyes?" "He's a prophet," he said. The Jews did not believe this about him, that he was blind and received sight, until they summoned the parents of the one who had received his sight. So this was a Sabbath day. This was supposed to be a day of rest, and it was one that the Pharisees would have held to religiously. That's probably pun intended. Jesus definitely could have healed this man without lifting a finger, right? Like, he didn't have to do anything. Certainly spit did not have to be involved. But he deliberately chose to work by making the mud and would have technically made the man unclean by using spit. According to Leviticus 15, he would not have been able to participate in temple worship if Jesus had made him unclean. All of that to say, Jesus was making a point. Not only that he was above the Sabbath, but he himself is clean, and he makes others clean. Also that he had the power to heal the blind. What an incredible miracle, a man that had been born blind. All of these were indicators that he was the Messiah, that he was from God. He was more than a prophet, even though that's what the man thought he was. We read on to see that his parents are called in. His parents are wishy-washy about it because they don't want to get in trouble. And the man is just overjoyed. He's just telling his testimony to anybody who will listen. He's happy to be asked because he wants to tell this story. And the Pharisees end up throwing him out of the temple. They basically say, "You're in sin," and kick him out. And that's where he meets Jesus again. Jesus says, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" he asked. Jesus answered, "You have seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." "I believe, Lord," he said, and he worshiped him. Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, in order that those who do not see will see, and those who do see will become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these things and asked him, "We aren't blind too, are we?" "If you were blind," Jesus told them, "you wouldn't have sin. But now that you say we see, your sin remains." The Pharisees are so certain of their own righteousness here. But the interesting thing is that the blind man was the one who got it, and the teachers of the law didn't. The blind man was the one who could see, and the teachers of the law became the ones who were blind. So my question for you and for me today is, how can we open ourselves up to humility and be ready for whatever Jesus has for us to do? I'll leave you to think about that, and I will be here to chat with you again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.